The execution that changed the stars. The celestial tribunal arena hung above the gas giant cairn like a jeweled parasite, a ring of light and steel visible from half the system. It was not a court. It was a stage. Every execution carried out by the Galactic Empire was broadcast live, translated into 10,000 languages, mandatory viewing for all subject species. Justice, the Empire insisted, must be seen. 5 figures stood at the center of the arena, bound by gravitic restraints that kept their feet inches above the obsidian floor. They wore no armor, no insignia, only simple human uniforms, stripped of rank by imperial decree. Even so, the galaxy knew who they were. General Amina Rahman, architect of the Helios defensive line. General Sophia Kincaid, who had ended the Cyrene War without firing a planetary weapon. General Mei-Ling Zhou, pioneer of non-lethal cyber suppression. General Valeria Cortez, frontline commander who evacuated enemy civilians under fire. General Elena Petrov, diplomat soldier, negotiator of a dozen ceasefires. 5 human women who had spent their lives proving that war did not have to mean annihilation. The presiding imperial justicar floated forward, his many eyes glittering beneath ceremonial plating. His voice boomed across the arena and into countless worlds. "Behold humanity's champions," he declared. "They call them generals. We call them symbols of weakness." Laughter rippled through the stands. Alien nobles, military elites, client kings. This was theater, and the Empire enjoyed its performances. The Justicar gestured, and massive holos ignited behind the prisoners, displaying casualty numbers from past conflicts. "Observe," he continued. "Humanity had the power to end wars swiftly. Yet they chose restraint. They chose mercy. They chose inefficiency." His gaze hardened. The Empire does not tolerate such delusions. General Rahman lifted her head. Despite the restraints, despite the chains, she stood straight. Her voice carried without amplification. "You mistake mercy for surrender," she said calmly, "and restraint for fear." The crowd hissed. The Justicar's mandibles twitched in irritation. "Silence," he snapped. "You stand condemned for war crimes against imperial authority." General Kincaid smiled faintly. "Funny," she replied. "We were charged with preventing them." That was enough. The execution began not with weapons, but with humiliation. The Empire believed dignity was the first thing that must be destroyed. Energy lashes struck not to kill, but to force their knees to bend. General Zhou gritted her teeth, refusing to scream. General Cortez locked eyes with the nearest camera, her expression steady, defiant. Petrov whispered something, later translated into a human lullaby, sung to frightened children during evacuations. Across human space, billions watched. On Earth, the broadcast played in silence. No commentary, no interruptions. Military command centers from Luna to Mars to the outer colonies stood frozen, officers unmoving, eyes fixed on the screen. They were not watching soldiers die. They were watching the people who had kept humanity civilized. The Justicar raised a claw. "Let this serve as a lesson," he proclaimed. "The Empire rewards obedience. It eradicates defiance." 5 execution pylons rose from the floor. General Rahman spoke one last time, not to the Empire, but to the camera. "To humanity," she said softly. "I'm sorry we won't be there to hold you back." The pylons activated. There was no explosion, no mercy in speed. The Empire preferred methods that lingered, light tearing matter apart layer by layer, pain measured and prolonged. When it was over, 5 scorch marks remained where the generals had stood. The Justicar spread his arms. Thus ends the illusion of human moral superiority. The broadcast cut. On Earth, no one spoke. For exactly 43 seconds, the human race did nothing. Then Admiral Jonas Hale, Supreme Fleet Command, removed a small data key from a sealed case beneath his console. He did not hesitate. He inserted it. Across human-controlled space, systems long dormant awakened. Red restriction codes vanished from weapon schematics. Ethical governors were switched to advisory mode, or shut off entirely. Artificial intelligences, once bound by layers of philosophical constraint, began recalculating with new parameters. On Mars, the black vaults opened for the first time in 2 centuries. On Titan, shipyards that officially did not exist powered their lights. On distant colony worlds, old veterans felt something shift, like pressure dropping before a storm. Humanity did not scream. It did not rage publicly. It did not issue threats. Instead, it remembered. It remembered why those 5 women had been placed in charge in the first place. Why they had argued endlessly for limits, for rules, for restraint. Why they had insisted that power must always be leashed. Because humans knew themselves. In the ruins of the tribunal arena, the Empire celebrated. They toasted compliance. They congratulated themselves on crushing a soft species. They did not see the significance of Earth silence. They did not understand that the people they had executed were not humanity's sharpest weapons. They were the safeties. And when the galaxy next heard from humanity, it would not be in a courtroom. It would be on a battlefield, not with a declaration, but with unleashed war. The end of Restraint doctrine. The first thing the galaxy noticed was not an attack. It was absence. Human diplomatic envoys vanished from imperial capitals within minutes of the execution broadcast. Embassies went dark. Trade lanes once alive with human freighters fell silent, ships diverting without explanation or apology. Long-standing communication channels returned nothing but automated acknowledgments, cold, polite, final. At the heart of Earth's unified command, Admiral Jonas Hale stood before the assembled High Council. No flags hung behind him. No ceremonial colors marked the chamber. This was not politics. This was function. A single phrase glowed on the central holoscreen. Restraint doctrine status void. For 200 years, the doctrine had governed every human military action beyond Sol. It limited weapon yield, prohibited certain targeting algorithms, forbade entire classes of armament. Not because the galaxy demanded it, but because humanity feared what it might become without it. The 5 executed generals had written most of it. Hale did not raise his voice. He did not need to. By imperial action, he said, all signatories of the Restraint doctrine are deceased. Authority terminated. No one argued. No one voted. There was no debate to be had. A legal officer stepped forward. Sir, confirmation protocols? Hale nodded once. Initiate Black Ledger. Across human space, command codes cascaded through military networks. Systems that had carried warnings for generations. Access denied. Human law faded into green compliance. Fleet AIs paused, then recalculated. In deep space, the first hidden fleet broke stealth for the first time in 180 years. Massive hulls unfolded from gravitational shadows, their profiles unknown to every non-human intelligence in existence. Drives spooled not with flare, but with silence. Technology refined under restraint, now allowed to function as designed. On Luna, scientists unlocked vaults containing weapon schematics labeled prohibited by conscience. No one smiled as they did it. They worked faster than they ever had before. Alien observers were confused. Imperial intelligence reported no mobilization surge, no frantic recruitment, no war chants or speeches. Humanity did not behave like a species preparing for vengeance. It behaved like one closing a book. At a remote listening post, a junior Imperial analyst frowned at her console. Sir, she said, human networks are deleting data. Her superior waved a limb dismissively. Scorched diplomacy. Common after humiliation. It's not that, she replied. They're not erasing secrets. They're erasing debates. Ethical review logs. Dissent archives. The officer leaned closer. Humanity was not hiding its intentions. It was removing the arguments against them. On Earth, Hale entered the strategic silence phase. No transmissions left human space except one, sent across every open frequency, every language, every protocol the galaxy recognized. It contained no threats, no demands, only a single sentence. Restraint was a choice. Then the channels went dead. Within the Empire, celebration curdled into unease. Fleets redeployed toward human borders, but found nothing to engage. Patrols reported empty space where human ships had once been visible. The Empire did not understand what humanity was doing wrong. It assumed delay meant fear. It did not see the work happening beneath the surface. Human war doctrine shifted from deterrence to termination. Targets were not planets or populations, but structures, logistics, command hierarchies, automated decision loops. Humanity had studied empires for centuries, not how they fought, but how they collapsed. In a sealed chamber beneath Earth's crust, Hale stood before a memorial wall. 5 names glowed softly. A young captain approached, voice tight. "Sir, permission to ask." "Granted. Why no declaration?" "The Empire expects one." Hale did not turn. "Declarations are for wars you want to end with words." He faced the captain then, eyes tired, steady. "This one ends with absence." The first strike authorization did not target a fleet or a world. It targeted a data relay hub at the edge of Imperial space, a system so minor it barely registered as strategic. The strike was invisible. One moment, the relay functioned. The next, it did not. No explosion, no debris, just sudden, absolute failure. Imperial communications stuttered, rerouted, then overloaded. Backup systems activated and were quietly fed false synchronization data. Within hours, fleets were receiving conflicting orders. Supply convoys jumped to empty coordinates. Defense platforms locked onto phantom threats. The Empire blamed glitches. By the time it realized the pattern, dozens of similar nodes had gone dark. Still, no human ships were seen. No warnings issued. No ultimatums delivered. In the quiet of unified command, Hale received confirmation from strategic AI oversight. Phase 1 complete, the machine reported. Empire response capability reduced by 12%. Hale closed his eyes briefly. Somewhere in the galaxy, 5 graves remained unmarked. Humanity had not roared. It had not struck in anger. It had done something far more dangerous. It had stopped holding back. And the war, though barely visible, had already begun. The war the Empire couldn't understand. The Galactic Empire did not realize it was losing the war. Not at first. From the throne world of Aurelian Prime, the map still showed Imperial space intact, vast, colored in confident gold. Fleets remained numerous. Worlds still paid tribute. On paper, the Empire was unbroken. In reality, it was bleeding out through 1,000 invisible wounds. The first fleet to disappear was the 7th Imperial Armada, en route to reinforce the outer human border. It exited hyperspace on schedule and found nothing waiting for it. No enemy ships, no mines, no ambush, just silence. Moments later, its navigational cores desynchronized. Star charts disagreed with onboard sensors. Jump calculations returned contradictory results. When the Admiral ordered a retreat, half the fleet jumped to the wrong coordinates. 3 cruisers never reappeared at all. Imperial Command labeled it a technical anomaly. Then it happened again. And again. Across Imperial space, logistics collapsed. Fuel depots reported full reserves that were, in fact, empty. Ammunition stockpiles were logged as secure even as they quietly decomposed at the molecular level, sabotaged months earlier by human infiltration teams that had never fired a shot. Humanity was not fighting battles. It was removing the Empire's ability to fight any at all. On the border world of Vestor, an Imperial governor watches defense grid shut itself down one layer at a time. He demanded explanations from his engineers. "There's no hostile intrusion," they insisted. "The systems are obeying valid commands. Valid human commands." When the first human fleet finally appeared, it did not arrive in a blaze of fire. It emerged from deep space like a thought made real, sleek, unfamiliar hulls arranged with unsettling precision. They did not broadcast identification. They did not issue demands. They simply waited. Imperial defenders fired first. Every shot missed, not because of superior armor or shields, but because the targeting solutions were subtly wrong, off by margins too small to detect until it was far too late. Human electronic warfare had rewritten the Empire's understanding of distance itself. The battle lasted 11 minutes. Not a single human ship was damaged. The Imperial survivors were not pursued. They were left drifting, weapons disabled, communications dead. To the Empire's horror, this became the pattern. Human forces bypassed fortress worlds and capital defenses, striking instead at shipyards mid-construction, academies mid-lecture, command nodes mid-decision. Officers were captured alive, disarmed before they realized they were under attack. Interrogations yielded confusion more than defiance. "You could have destroyed us," one captured admiral said, staring at his restraints. "Why didn't you?" The human commander regarded him coolly. "Because annihilation is easy," she replied. "We're here to make sure you never recover." As Imperial systems fell out of alignment, subject species began to notice. Tribute shipments vanished into human-controlled corridors and never returned. Imperial protection fleets failed to arrive when pirates struck. For the first time in centuries, the Empire looked fragile. Entire client worlds declared neutrality overnight. Some openly defected, opening their orbits to human ships without resistance. Humanity accepted their surrender without ceremony. It was not conquering territory. It was dismantling a machine. At Aurelian Prime, panic finally breached the throne chamber. Advisors shouted over one another as reports streamed in. Fleets missing, commands ignored, AI overseers refusing to escalate. "Their ships are ignoring our capital," a warlord bellowed. "They pass us by as if we don't matter." And that, the Emperor realized too late, was exactly the point. The Empire attempted escalation. Forbidden weapons were authorized. Planet cracker arrays powered up on distant strongholds. Orders were issued to burn human colonies as examples. None of the weapons fired. Humanity had already been there, long before the executions, long before the war. Human cyber infiltration, once limited by restraint, had planted logic bombs deep within Imperial escalation systems. The moment those weapons were authorized, they locked themselves down, broadcasting their activation attempts to human command as confirmation. The Emperor watched his options evaporate in real time. "Open negotiations," he demanded. No response came. The first direct assault on Aurelian Prime did not target the palace or the population. It targeted the Empire's central automated governance core. For 6 minutes, the machine that had ruled 1,000 systems argued with itself under human override. Then it shut down. Without centralized coordination, the Empire fractured instantly. Fleets froze, awaiting orders that would never come. Defense grids defaulted to standby. Bureaucratic chains collapsed into chaos. Human fleets finally closed in, not firing, not bombarding, but occupying critical orbital positions with mathematical certainty. On a human flagship overlooking the Golden World, Admiral Hale stood in silence. A junior officer spoke softly. "Sir, the Empire is asking what they did to deserve this." Hale did not look away from the viewport. "They killed the people who kept us civilized," he said, "and expected us to remain so." As Imperial banners were lowered across the stars, one truth spread faster than any fleet. Humanity had not won because it was stronger. It had won because it understood war as a system. And once unleashed, it had dismantled that system piece by piece, until the Empire could no longer recognize itself as something capable of fighting back. The lesson written in ruins. The war ended without a victory parade. Across former Imperial space, weapons fell silent not because humanity demanded surrender, but because there was no longer anyone capable of issuing coherent resistance. Fleets drifted in holding patterns. Defense platforms remained powered, but purposeless. The Galactic Empire did not fall in fire. It came apart, joint by joint, system by system. On Aurelian Prime, the Emperor waited in a chamber that had once commanded 1,000 worlds. Now it was quiet. The central governance core remained dark, sealed by human override codes that could not be bypassed without permission that would never be granted. A human delegation arrived without guards, without ceremony. Admiral Jonas Hale walked at their center. He did not wear medals. None of them did. "You have won," the Emperor said, voice brittle. "Take the throne. Rule what remains." Hale regarded him steadily. We didn't come for your throne. Then why destroy my empire? Hale gestured toward the vast windows, where human ships held precise orbital positions, not in occupation rings, but in containment. Because your empire required destruction to function, he replied. And we're done pretending that can be fixed by replacing the ruler. The terms humanity imposed were unlike anything the galaxy had seen. The empire would be dissolved, not rebranded. Its central institutions dismantled. Subject species would receive autonomy under international oversight. Human oversight, temporary and limited by mandate. No tribute, no permanent occupation. No human governor would rule an alien world. Alien ambassadors wept openly as the terms were read. Some in relief, some in shame. You could have taken everything, one whispered. No one could stop you. Hale nodded. That's why we didn't. Across liberated systems, human forces supervised transitions with surgical precision. Weapons were cataloged and decommissioned. Imperial AIs were dismantled or rewritten to serve local governments. Military academies were converted into civilian universities. Not a single world was bombarded. Not one population center destroyed. The galaxy struggled to reconcile the war it had witnessed with the aftermath that followed. In the ruins of the Celestial Tribunal Arena, humans returned, not with troops, but with engineers and historians. The execution platform was dismantled piece by piece, its materials repurposed. At the arena's center, a monument rose. 5 figures, cast not in triumph, but in quiet resolve. General Amina Rahman, General Sophia Kincaid, General Mailing Zhou, General Valeria Cortez, General Elena Petrov. The plaque beneath them carried no accusation, no threat, only a statement in every known language. They held the line so others would not cross it. On Earth, the restraint doctrine was not erased. It was rewritten. Where once it had been law, it became legacy, a reminder rather than a limit. Humanity understood now what it had always feared, that restraint only matters when others respect it. The new Galactic Charter included a single clause proposed by humanity and accepted without debate. Do not kill those who keep the monsters asleep. In private, Hale stood before the memorial wall once more. The 5 names glowed softly, joined now by a 6th entry. Not a person, but a date. The day restraint ended. A young officer approached, the same captain who had once questioned the lack of a declaration. Sir, she said, the galaxy is afraid of us. Hale did not deny it. They should be. And yet, she continued, they're also studying our doctrines, trying to imitate them. Hale allowed himself a faint, weary smile. Good. Fear teaches caution. Imitation teaches humility. Beyond Earth, former imperial worlds rebuilt without tribute or chains. Trade resumed under new rules. Conflict still occurred, because conflict was inevitable, but none rose to the scale of empire. Human fleets withdrew, system by system, leaving behind advisors, not garrisons. The galaxy endured. Centuries later, historians would argue over the war's true nature. Some would call it genocide narrowly avoided. Others would name it the most disciplined act of violence ever recorded. Humanity called it something simpler, a correction. The final transmission humanity left encoded in galactic archives was played in academies, councils, and war colleges long after the last imperial banner faded. It was Admiral Hale's voice, calm and unadorned. We are not the strongest species in the galaxy. We're the one most afraid of what we become without limits. You killed the people who carried those limits for us. So we carried the war instead. The recording ended there. No threats followed. No empires rose to replace the one that fell. And across the stars, a hard-won understanding took root. Humanity's mercy was not weakness. It was a warning. And once ignored, it would never be offered the same way again.